Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. Lewis Reed represented the 6th Ward of the City of St. Louis for nearly 8 years as an alderman before becoming the first African-American elected president of the Board of Aldermen. As president, Mr. Reed presides over the weekly Board of Aldermen meetings, assigns bills to committees, and decides which alderman will sit on those committees. Aside from leading the Board of Aldermen, he also sits on a variety of boards and commissions within the city government. Before entering public service, Lewis Reed had a successful career in private sector. He was the director of networks and telecommunications for the Edison Brothers Stores worldwide operations. He also served as the manager of the data networks for SSM Health Businesses. As a young man, Mr. Reed attended Southern Illinois University Edwardsville on a wrestling scholarship. He majored in mathematics and computer science. While at SIUE, he worked as a tutor in the math and computer science tutoring lab. It's our great pleasure to have with us today the Honorable Lewis E. Reed. Welcome back to Conversation, President Reed.
Well, thanks for having me, Lee. I'm really happy to be here. Looking forward to some of the subjects that hopefully we'll get covered today.
Well, we will, and we're going to cover quite a ton. I've got my piece of paper here, although I pretty well know where we're going. But I'm told that you would like to discuss your view of the Amendment 7. And so we'll start off with Amendment 7 and your view of whether that should or should not be passed on August the 5th.
Yes, Lee, I've come out publicly against Amendment 7, and the reason I've come out against Amendment 7 is for numerous reasons. Number one, it's the largest tax in Missouri history. I think that's a problem. I think it's unfair to the residents of the city of St. Louis and the businesses in the city. Nearly 30% of the households in St. Louis are without a car, right? We have a better way to raise money to support our transportation needs, our roads and bridges and the repairs and maintenance and ongoing maintenance of that, and I think that should be in the form of a gas tax. Mm-hmm. And if you take a look at what it will do to the businesses in the city, it will send our taxes skyrocketing. We will end up with 10% and higher in tax rate, depending on which business district you're in within the city. And I think that puts the businesses at an unfair footing, especially when you take a look at some of our neighbors like Illinois. I think it'll be a good thing for Illinois if people feel like they have to pay an exorbitant tax to just eat downtown.
Okay. Now, I understand that you favor putting more money into mass transit.
Yes, absolutely. When you take a look at the needs of the residents of the city, and any major metropolitan area that's been, that's leading the nation, your New Yorks, your LAs, your Chicagos, and those types of cities, mass transit is a big thing, and it's very important. I think businesses nowadays, they look to, the type of mass transit systems you have available and the ease of access to it before they relocate or choose to locate within your town. Everything from conventions, when conventions look to where they want to hold their conventions, they want ease of access to mass transit and those types of things. So mass transit.
Get around, you're talking about to get around within probably the downtown area, aren't you?
The downtown area and to some of the major sites within the metro area they look at also, and that in terms of conventions. So it goes beyond just the needs of the residents and the businesses. It also helps in attracting tourism.
Okay, now, as I understand it, the amendment allows, I think, 5% of the money goes to various cities, with a heavy dose going to St. Louis City?
Yes, it's broken down where the majority of it obviously is going to go back to MoDOT, and then a portion of it will go back to the
cities and counties.
Cities and counties.
I think it's 5% cities, 5% counties.
Yeah, so St. Louis will end up, since we are our own county, we end up with nearly 10%.
Oh, you get both.
Yeah, we get
double dippers.
We get both, but here's the twist on that. We have an opportunity in the future to pass our own transportation tax to fund some of the things that we're talking about that would be funded
locally within the city.
Within the city. And we would keep 100% of the money and be able to address some of the major transportation needs and look at some mass transit at the same time.
Let's move on to something similar to what we're talking about, but more localized. What is the condition, in your opinion, of the road infrastructure in the cities? And I'm not talking about Missouri highways. I'm just talking about the city streets.
City of St. Louis, like other metropolitan areas all across our state, we are in need of some infrastructure improvements. Our roads and our bridges, all of them, we need repairs. If you take a look at the transportation funding and the project list that's been put forward to fund, part of that part of that project list part of that project list has a match funding requirement to it, right? And we can still address those.
Match from where?
Match from the state, local and state.
Okay.
Local and state federal funding through East-West Gateway. So we have an opportunity to still do some of those projects without this transportation tax in the future, right? We're also looking at a GO bond in the city, a municipal GO bond, a GO bond in the city, and if that passes, we can address some of our transportation needs, our road and streets and bridge needs, and that.
Is there already a plan on the table? To
There's
determine
multiple.
Well, no, I didn't mean for the tax that
Okay.
you're talking about. I'm talking about if you had money, if suddenly somebody came to you today and said, "Oh, here, Mr. Reed, here's $2 billion.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and spend it
Just
on roads."
it.
Do we have a plan that says, "Okay, fine, we know what we need to do first. Priority 1, priority 2, priority 3."
Absolutely. There's a plan that was put forward for the Amendment 7, right? That includes, infrastructure improvements in there, and there's a plan that's buckled into the GO bond initiative, right? So there are plans across both of them.
And if this Amendment 7 does fail on August 5th, do you believe at that point that you're going to move forward rapidly with your idea of this bond?
Yeah, the general obligation bond will be on the November ballot, right? So we're working on that right now at the Board of Aldermen, finishing up the language and determining some of the additional spending priorities before we put it on the ballot. But we plan to have it on the November ballot, and we will give the taxpayers of the city of St. Louis an opportunity to vote it up or down. And certainly hope they vote it up.
And will that still appear in November if Amendment 7 passes?
Absolutely.
So you're moving forward with this.
Yes, it extends beyond just transportation needs. It's other, sustainability things that we cover in there. The bike share program that we cover in there, home improvement things, and it is a whole host of things, capital improvements that the city needs.
Now, the things underneath the houses, for example, what is the infrastructure condition of, say, the water system or the sewer system of the city of St. Louis?
I think we're an old city, right? So we have, infrastructure needs from, if you look at the sewer, the water, all of that, including the streets and everything under it, we need funding for all of it. But the point is, I think there's a different approach to address some of our the transportation needs. And in this case, Amendment 7 is not just for the transportation needs of the city of St. Louis. What we would be doing is asking the taxpayers of the city of St. Louis to unfairly burden themselves with an additional tax, right? And put the businesses and the businesses within the city on fair footing.
You're talking about the sales tax,
yeah, with
this three-quarters of 1 cent
sales tax, right?
Correct.
With the largest tax in Missouri history, opposed to having a tax that would be a more fair tax, like a gasoline tax. We're one of the lowest places in the state, in the United States of America, for a gasoline tax, and this will help. I think that there's a better way to do it.
Well, you're an influential man. You obviously have communication with the state representatives and the state senators that represent St. Louis City. What are they telling you about why the state is not focusing on a gasoline tax?
Lee, you know as well as I do, with term limits and everything else in the state of Missouri, the lobbyists have, unfair influence over some of the things that are happening across the state. But I represent the residents of the city of St. Louis, and I know that it is not the residents and the businesses in the city of St. Louis, and it is not a fair tax for us. We cannot afford to exceed 10% sales tax. I mean, it becomes regressive at that point. Mm-hmm. It's going to hurt businesses and everything else. There is a better way to do this. You look at one of the things that MoDOT outlines. They say that they're running out of money for maintenance, but then on the new list of pet projects, everybody's including additional roadways and expansion of roadways, which ultimately is going to increase maintenance. We need to look for a more sustainable solution.
I mean, one of the things that people forget is that you build a road. You're that road's mom and dad.
You have to take care of it. I mean, it doesn't,
unless you're going to close that road
down. It never moves out of the house. Yeah.
Somebody has got to keep the surface of that road good.
Exactly.
And the more roads you build, the more that you have to maintain. And there has to be some mechanism for funding this, not just in the city of St. Louis, but throughout the nation, but we're focused on Missouri right now, so throughout both the urban, suburban, and rural areas of Missouri, which I don't know that the legislature is focused on that.
It doesn't
pet
seem
projects
that way.
Is a good way of putting it, because in order to sell this amendment, they have actually, we're going to do this and that, all these other things that, it's like trying to buy votes here, buy votes there for pet projects, as opposed to explaining to people, hey, we have to have sufficient funds in order to maintain what we've got. It's like putting a new roof on your house when you need it.
Exactly. And, again, we need to go back and take a look at a more sustainable solution. And I'm going to continue to push the fact that we need to take a look at the gasoline tax in the state of Missouri. I think that, it's a win-win for everybody across the board, and it's more of a fair solution. Why should 30% of the people who do not have a automobile within the city of St. Louis have to pay for, roads and streets and bridges? I mean, we move closer to a user-based system if we do that.
Okay. Speaking now, I want to go on into the city of St. Louis. Speaking of putting new roofs on, what's the assessment on the condition of the housing stock in the city of St. Louis?
We have, the historic tax credits have done a lot to help us stabilize a lot of our historic structures through the city and a lot of the older buildings in the city. We still have a long way to go. There are major sections of the city or neighborhoods that are in deterioration, and we have to allocate some more funding to those areas and work to put some long-term strategies together to address our housing stock within these areas.
Well, there are some areas of town that are beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
A large part. Most of St. Louis City is in very good shape. Yeah. There are areas of St. Louis that simply need to be tore down and start over again.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, that's an outsider's point of view. I don't live in the city, but when I drive through some parts of the city, and I do, I make an effort to drive through the city of St. Louis just to look. Among other things, I'm a photographer, so I'm looking. Yeah. And what I see are buildings that are, I'm not sure if they're still within the area of being repairable.
You know, they said the same thing about areas within Lafayette Square. I mean, if you,
Well, that's true.
If we roll
Yeah,
back
that's true,
20, 25 years, exact same
Right.
thing they said about Lafayette Square. The foam factory, right? The foam factory was a building that was multi-story building, and it collapsed. The top 2 or 3 floors had collapsed upon themselves. So, you know, everybody said that building needed to be torn down, right? And the one-story building in front of it should be torn down, needed to make it into a surface parking lot in Lafayette Square. We refused to do it, right? And we worked to get a good developer on there. We worked to make sure that there was access to all the tax credits, historic tax credits and the like. And now it is a great place. It has condos there. People are living in the building that they said should have been torn down. One of the best restaurants in the city of St. Louis, 1111 Mississippi, operates in the one-story building. And you know, I invite you to try that restaurant. It's a great place. But it's that kind of thing that we need to look at. We need to look at our housing stock, you know, whether it's in poor condition or that need of repair, or it looks like it needs to just be torn down. We need to look at that housing stock and remember where some of our other housing stock has come from. But think about the fabric of the community in and around Lafayette Square and what's been built there now,
Yes.
right? And every place in the United States, one of the things that they talk about now is having more walkable communities, right? Where if you're home on the weekends, or even you can walk to pick up your dry cleaning, go to the coffee shop or whatever. But if we would have mowed that down, we would have completely changed the fabric of that community, and we would not have that asset today. Same thing in some of these other neighborhoods. We need to look at the uniqueness within those neighborhoods and build plans to capture that and to restore it. So I think
You make some very excellent points. You've given me things to think about here. But of course, that brings us now to Paul and Midge McKee.
okay.
Now, that has been a very controversial proposal that's been on the table for a number of years now. From your perspective, should it have gone forward? And secondly, where does it stand right now?
In my perspective, yes, it should have gone forward.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that
Why don't you explain to people who don't know? There's some that just don't know.
Yeah, the North Side, this project, the North Side Regeneration Project is what it's called. Paul McKee is the master developer. Midge is his wife.
It's an area defined by.
It's area defined, you know, north of Del Mar. It's an expansive area, a huge area. It's hard to pin down all the boundaries, but you know, roughly bounded by Del Mar and Interstate 70. Right, all the way out to probably Grand Avenue, you know, somewhere within that. But you know, you have to, number one, you have to commend Paul and Midge for coming in and putting forward such a grand plan, because it is, if not the largest, but certainly one of the largest urban redevelopment projects in the United States of America, right? It is a big plan. A lot of jobs they're looking to put in there, a lot of home redevelopments that, you know, of existing structures and building new structures within the footprint. The city of St. Louis, we have approved a nearly $400 million TIF for the project. But one of the things that I have to commend Paul and Midge for is this. In the early days, when there was a lot of people coming out against the project and just very angry, you know, because they did not know what was going to happen within the development area, what Paul did was he got his wife Midge, and he told people, anybody who wants to talk about it will come talk to him, right? Now this guy is a multi-millionaire, wealthy developer. He could have retired at the time. And what he and Midge would do is, if there was one person, if there were two people, if there was one family that wanted to talk, they would get in their car, they'd come down and sit in their living room, and they would spend as much time with that family as that family wanted them to spend with them, so that that family understood what was going on in the project, right? I have never heard of any developer ever doing that before, ever, right? And you have to commend them for that. This development has to be successful. And it is important for the city of St. Louis that it's so successful, that it needs to be successful. There's a lot riding on it. Other developers, other people are watching it, right? And the last thing we need is this project not to succeed. So we're doing everything within reason and within our power to try to help to get this project.
Last I heard, it was supposed to kick off in June or July. They were actually supposed to start doing stuff. Has that happened?
No, they're still working. Again, it is a massive project, right? You know, Lee, I don't know if you know, but I used to be in development. I used to be in construction, worked for McBride and Son and all these guys, right? And
no, I only got the SSM.
Yeah, I used to be an estimator and, you know, helped on projects and stuff.
So you know about this.
I know, yeah. And one of the things I know is that you can make all the projections you want, but until the banks say okay on the funding, until you were able
to
get
your permits.
Yeah, you got your permits. You can say you can sell the TIF notes and everything else you need to make it happen, right? You put a projection down there. All it takes is one hiccup for you to miss that date, right? Mm-hmm. And in this case, you know, and that's on a small project. If you're building a deck, right?
Now, not 2,000 acres.
Not 2,000. Yeah, not all these acres, and you know, every tax credit and everything, you know, banking thing known to man, right? It is a complex deal. You know, when you're dealing with, you know, nearly $1 billion in development, it is not something to take lightly. So yes, they have missed some dates.
I hope that you and I can both go down there and see a finished project sometime in the not too distant future.
I hope even more than you. It is important.
Since we talked last, the Missouri legislature has given and handed back to the city of St. Louis control of the police department. Mm-hmm. What difference has that made to you? To not you, but to the city of St. Louis?
I think more than anything, I think that number one, I think that you know, we're still yet to see the total outcome of it, right? You know, but I think what it will do ultimately is have the, you know, a better coming together of the police department and the residents in the city. We have a phenomenal police department. I think we're very blessed and lucky in that way that we have such a great police department. The officers, they come to all the neighborhood meetings. They respond well when we need them, that type of thing. But there's something about, the local control aspect of it that I think will help to strengthen the bonds between the department and the residents. So it's not like, you know, we don't really work for you, we work for the state or someone else. And the residents looking at the officers like, well, I don't have faith in you because I have no control of you. But we get an opportunity to wipe all that away. But again, I think we're still yet to see the total impact of it. They just went through and completed redistricting, which, they broke the districts down into...
This is Chief Dodson?
Chief Dodson did, based on, call volume and other things. So, and that's in its early stages, so.
We got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Here's a tougher question, and we got to talk about this because we just talked about the police. Channels 2, 4, and 5, they've got their news trucks, and they run around, especially they've got these guys running around at night.
Yeah.
You turn on the TV 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning, and they're all of a sudden, they're red flashing lights, and there's been some shooting somewhere or another, or car chases, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It makes people nervous.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it makes the citizens of St. Louis nervous to see this day after day after day. As a leader, what would you hope could happen to stem this?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important that people understand that the public safety or the crime, to truly address the crime within our city of public safety aspects, public safety, let me just put it out. It's going to take a multifaceted approach. And it's not just just police department. It's not just programs and services for our youth and jobs and stuff. It's all of those things, right? And we have to coordinate amongst our nonprofits so that we have better delivery of services and we can better efficiently use the services that we are funding through state and federal grants and local grants also.
But more to the point, where do these young people get the idea that running around shooting other people is a good idea?
Well, I don't know that they view it as a good idea. I think that what we see is a breakdown based on lack of access to programs and services and jobs and all those things that a community needs, right? And you end up with the kids falling into what we see today. I mean, what we end up seeing is a reflection of our investment, and that's why every year during budgeting and everything, one of the things that I push for and try to make sure that we do is find different ways to fund some of these programs and services that we know work in other cities.
And are you successful at finding this money?
Not everybody is, let me put it this way, not everybody is on the same page. I represent, one vote in the legislative branch of city government and one vote on the board of E&A. But to truly get this done, everybody has to unify around that and understand that it's an issue. Here's the thing, Lee. If we continue to look at the statistics and our data hasn't changed, right? And so from year to year to year to year to year, we know that there's something that we're missing and there's something that we're doing that should be measured different, that should be, that isn't producing the outcomes that we need, right? We need a change in the course and direction, especially if we see those numbers increase, right? And those numbers increase while our population decreases. So, but other cities have begun to do things to address it. New York, and other cities like that, they've looked at the data and they said, with a 1% increase in unemployment, we can tell you, what the murder rate and everything else, how that's going to increase across the board, right? So if we're not creating jobs, if we're not getting our workforce ready to occupy these new jobs, right? If we're not, funding the programs and services for our youth, and if we're not supporting our public safety, we're going to see this continued thing. So it's important to do all of those things.
Yes.
And have a comprehensive plan.
I know you get your work cut out. All the people in the city government have got their work cut out for them. I want to thank you very much for. There was one question which requires one answer that people ask me. They ask you, are the Rams going to be there a couple years from now?
Absolutely, we're working on that now.
Glad to hear that.
Glad
to hear that. Well, we've run out of
Super
time.
Bowl too again.
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you very much for coming and spending some time with us.
Thank
Certainly
you, Lee.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee.
And to the audience, I've been speaking with Lewis Reed. He is the president of the St. Louis City Board of Aldermen. We've had a very interesting discussion here. If you would like other people to see it, go to YouTube, look up Conversation with Lee Presser, and show it to them. I'm Lee Presser. We'll see you next time. Thanks.